The camera stopped rolling, but he didn't. 37 seconds of truth that no one was meant to see. A forbidden memory, played one last time. He thought the world forgot her. But love doesn't fade when the lights go out. When the cameras slept. The 37 seconds that changed everything. The lights had already dimmed. The crew packed their lenses, the laughter of the set fading into hollow corridors. Only one red bulb still glowed on the camera, the one everyone forgot to switch off. And in that unplanned silence, the world saw the truest version of Menglong, not the actor, not the idol, but the man who still remembered her. They called it the 37 seconds that changed everything. The footage was never meant to exist. It was shot after the director yelled cut. Yet something inside him couldn't stop, not his eyes, not his trembling hands, not the whisper that slipped through his lips. If only she were here. That whisper was softer than breath, but heavy enough to crack the air around him. Those 37 seconds were pure, unfiltered, and painfully human, the kind of truth fame forbids and love refuses to bury. Yurin had always been perfect in motion, the type of perfection that feels rehearsed, painted, impossible. Fans saw him as light, a constellation in designer suits, an actor sculpted from calm precision. But behind that light lived shadows, nights of insomnia, scripts soaked with rewrites, and songs he wrote but never released. Each one dedicated to her. She was not a ghost, she was a melody. The kind of woman who entered a room like a dawn breaking through rain, too gentle for this world, too real for his. Her name was never spoken again after the scandal. It was erased from headlines, wiped from credits, blurred in photos. But she lived, quietly, inside every note he played on his old piano. And so, when the camera slept, his truth awoke. It was supposed to be a simple reshoot. The director wanted a tighter shot of his expression during a breakup scene, a scene he had already performed a dozen times. But something felt different that night. The air carried an ache. The rain outside sounded like a heartbeat caught in glass. And as the lights dimmed, Yurin's eyes clouded over. He didn't see the set anymore. He saw her, standing in the same dress she wore the day she left, white and untied, trembling under the storm. He reached out his hand, not to his co-star, but to a memory. His lips quivered. Stay? The word wasn't in the script. It wasn't acting. It was confession. And when the cameras finally cut, he kept going. For 37 seconds, he stood there, frozen between real and reality, whispering apologies to a love no one else could see. One tear. One breath. One moment of truth too raw to broadcast. No one knows how the footage escaped. Some say it was a technician who found the file labeled and used _take_04. Others whisper that Yurin himself leaked it, a desperate act to tell the truth without words. But when it appeared online, the world stopped scrolling. The video had no music, no color grading, no dialogue, just him. Eyes closed, tears suspended midair, lips trembling with unspoken grief. The comments exploded within minutes. Was he acting? That's not a scene. That's a memory. Who was she? Within hours, the video reached millions. Within days, it was deleted. Within weeks, his agency issued a statement, fabricated, misinterpreted, edited. But you can't edit emotion. And truth, once seen, refuses to unsee itself. Rumor has it, she was a painter, the kind who never signed her work. They met during his lowest years, long before the spotlight. She used to paint his world in colors he didn't know existed. She would tell him, fame is loud, love is quiet. Choose the one that listens. But fame doesn't listen. Fame echoes. And the echo of his ambition drowned her out until the only thing left was silence. The day she left behind one unfinished canvas, a portrait of him, half-colored, half-empty. Years later, that same canvas was spotted in a charity auction under the name Untitled Memory. Buyers didn't know what it was. But Yurin did. He bought it under a hidden alias, folded it, and hung it behind his studio piano, the same piano that sang her name in silence. In interviews, Yurin avoided questions about the video. But once, during a live broadcast, a fan asked, "What's your favorite number?" He paused, smiled faintly. 37, he said. The chat went silent for a heartbeat, then flooded with tears. Those 37 seconds became more than a leak, they became legend. Fans began calling it the Symphony of Scars, a melody that didn't need sound to be heard. One fan slowed the video down, frame by frame, and noticed something. At exactly second 24, his lips formed two words. Forgive me. At second 37, he looked straight into the camera, not as an actor, but as a man begging history to remember him differently. Months passed. His career dimmed under rumors, his silence misread as guilt. But one night, under the same studio lights where the moment began, he returned. No cameras, no crew, just a piano and a microphone. He performed a song no one had ever heard. No lyrics, no title. Just emotion, raw and trembling. Halfway through, he paused, looked up, and whispered. You waited long enough. It was as if he was speaking directly to her, or perhaps to the part of himself he buried with her. When the final note echoed, the audience didn't clap. They cried. Because sometimes applause feels too shallow for truth that deep. Weeks later, a journalist received an anonymous envelope. Inside was a single piece of paper written in Uran's handwriting. They said I was acting. But in those 37 seconds, I stopped pretending. She painted my soul in silence. I only hope I can now sing hers back into color. The journalist never revealed who sent it. But fans noticed something. The handwriting matched a note left in the untitled memory painting frame. To this day, no one knows what really happened. The agency still denies the footage. The actress in that scene refuses to speak of it. And Uran? He performs less now, choosing small, intimate venues where the lights are dim and every song ends with a whisper instead of applause. But every fan who listens closely swears they can hear it, a quiet melody hidden between notes, a pulse of memory in every silence. They call it the sound of what love leaves behind. There's an old saying in cinema. The camera never lies, it only sleeps. And when the cameras slept that night, truth slipped out. It didn't scream. It didn't demand. It just existed, softly, painfully, beautifully, in those 37 seconds. Maybe that's what art truly is. A place where we confess without language. Where we bleed quietly, frame by frame. Where every cut hides a heartbeat and every silence hides a story. Uran's legacy isn't the awards or the fame. It's the courage to be seen when no one was supposed to look. The honesty to love after being erased. The strength to turn memory into melody. Because in the end, the world will remember him not for his roles, but for that one forbidden moment. When the cameras slept. And love finally woke. The studio was supposed to be empty by then. The hum of machines had faded, the scent of makeup lingered like a ghost, and the lights buzzed faintly, the kind of silence that feels alive. Uran stood in the center of the set, still wearing the same costume, his fingers trembling slightly at his sides. No one noticed that the red camera light was still blinking. No one saw that he hadn't left. No one knew that the scene wasn't over for him, not yet. The script had ended with heartbreak, but his heart didn't understand endings. He looked at the fake rain still dripping down the set windows and whispered, "It's too real tonight." His reflection stared back, eyes hollow, but burning with something dangerous. He moved closer to the piano, the prop one they had placed for decoration, and let his fingers trace the keys. A sound escaped, faint, accidental, fragile. It wasn't in the scene, but it became one. He played a single note. Then another. And just like that, the silence began to breathe. Behind him, the stage lights flickered as if the universe itself leaned closer to listen. The melody was half a lullaby, half a confession. A song he used to play when she was still there, before fame, before fear, before she became a ghost in every love story he acted. He closed his eyes. The piano became her voice. Every note a heartbeat, every pause a sigh he once ignored. And then came the whisper, the one that no microphone was meant to catch. If only she were here. The sound broke him. It wasn't loud, but it cracked something deeper than silence. He could still remember the scent of her perfume that night she left, the way she stood under the studio lights and said, "You'll never need me once the world knows your name." She was wrong. The world knew his name, but forgot his soul. Those 37 seconds weren't about acting. They were the only time he ever lived honestly in front of a camera. The tears weren't part of the scene, they belonged to another life, one he was forced to erase. He remembered how she used to sit in the front row of every rehearsal, sketching him instead of watching the show. "Don't pose," she would say, smiling. "Just exist." And he did, but only when she looked at him. Now there was no one left to look. So he looked at himself through the camera lens, the blinking red light staring back like a truth he could no longer run from. He reached out and whispered, "You painted me, but I never painted you back." A drop of rain slid down the glass window, or maybe it was a tear. He didn't know anymore. The melody faltered. His hands froze. He inhaled sharply, like someone surfacing from a dream. Then, a soft echo. A sound that didn't belong to the piano. It came from somewhere deep, like a memory replaying itself. He turned. For a split second, he saw her, standing by the camera. Her dress pale, her eyes full of that same unspoken forgiveness. But before he could blink, she was gone. He laughed bitterly. "Still haunting my scenes, aren't you?" The camera caught that too, the broken smile of a man trying to make peace with the past. The kind of smile that doesn't heal, it hides. He kept playing. Each note grew heavier, trembling with years of silence. He didn't realize tears had blurred his vision until the piano keys began to ripple like water. And when his voice cracked, when that final line escaped, "Stay?" the universe seemed to freeze. The word echoed through the empty studio like a prayer too late to be answered. And somewhere between one note and the next, he stopped pretending. When he finally stood, 37 seconds had passed. But for him, it felt like a lifetime, a replay of every moment he wished he could rewrite. He walked toward the camera, still blinking, still watching. His reflection in the lens looked different, older, lonelier, but free. He wiped his face and whispered one last time. "Cut." The word wasn't meant for the director. It was for his heart. He turned off the lights, grabbed his coat, and walked out into the rain. Not realizing that the camera had never stopped recording. Later that night, he replayed the footage on his phone. He didn't watch himself, he watched her absence. Every frame was filled with it, a presence in the emptiness. He leaned back, eyes burning. "Maybe this is how I say goodbye," he whispered. But he didn't delete it. He couldn't. He simply renamed the file, 37 seconds. Then he closed his phone, set it on the piano, and played the same melody one last time. Outside, dawn began to bleed across the horizon. The storm had passed, but the streets still glistened, like mirrors, reflecting what was left behind. He walked home with his hands buried in his pockets, the cold morning wind carrying fragments of his song through the city. A newspaper vendor recognized him and smiled. "You look tired, sir. Long shoot?" He smiled faintly. "You could say that." But deep inside, he knew something had shifted. He had let her go, not with words, but with music. And though the world would never see that moment, the truth of it would follow him forever, hidden in every line he spoke, every character he became. Because once the camera captures your truth, you can never go back to pretending. And so, those 37 seconds became legend, not because they were filmed, but because they were real. The kind of real that can't be rehearsed. The kind of real that costs you everything. And though the world may never see what the lens saw that night, somewhere inside Menglong, those 37 seconds still play. Over and over, like a prayer whispered to the one who never came back. Because in the quiet between fame and forgiveness, that's where love truly lives. In the seconds no one was supposed to see.